It's 2 o'clock, so I'll call the commission meeting for Thursday, April 21st, 2022 to order. If we would please stand, I'll lead us in an invocation, and I've asked Commissioner Cook to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. My dear Heavenly Father, we're just thankful for this day, and Father, we're thankful that we live in a free country, and Father, we also appreciate the opportunity we have as commissioners to help citizens of Glynn County, providing them safe water and good treatment of the wastewater. Father, just grant us wisdom as we go about the business of the Joint Water and Sewer Commission, and we ask your blessings on each one of our staff members and their families. And Father, today we want to especially pray for the Farrer family at the loss of their son Paul in an untimely death. So if you just be with them during this period. Thank you for your love, and thank you for the example you've given us. And Father, we also want to pray for all of our leaders, both our national leaders, our state leaders, and our local leaders. It's in Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Please say the pledge with me. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have the public comment period, and Mr. Julian Smith wants to make a public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Julian Smith. I live on St. Simon's Island. My wife and I own several properties on the mainland that don't have water and sewer, and we're delighted to learn that Joint Water and Sewer is preparing to extend sewer to sections of Brunswick Villa that no longer have it. Now, my reason for speaking to you this afternoon has to do with the Golden Isles Community Sentiment Survey, which is not really a survey of sentiments or feelings, but of what members of the public would like to see on the proposed 2022 SPLOST list. And the reason I am calling this to your attention is that there are two opportunities on the survey about SPLOST projects, needed SPLOST projects, two opportunities to indicate water and sewer improvement are a high priority as SPLOST projects for homeowners and other residents of Glynn County. This is a survey that has been put together by a consulting group, by people at the Chamber of Commerce, the Convention and Visitors Bureau, and like the camel or anything invented by a committee, it has its problems. But it is an opportunity for the public to advocate for more funds for water and sewer improvements. The deadline for responding to this survey is midnight on Monday, May 9th, and there will be a presentation on May 16th giving the results to the County Commission and the City Commission. One of the reasons I'm interested in this survey and bringing this to your attention is that in 2016, I attended many meetings, work sessions of the City Commission and the County Commission as they hammered out the 2016 SPLOST project list. And I saw the request by Joint Water and Sewer being shoved to the side a bit, and Joint Water and Sewer did not get as much on that as possible. So I'm hoping you all might, with your next bills or messages to the community, encourage ratepayers and others in the community who don't have county sewer to take this survey and indicate their support. So thank you very much for this time.
Well, I appreciate
And I
your
must go
input.
on to something else. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Smith.
Andrew, are you familiar with that
Yes, sir.
sentiment survey?
Yes, sir. We can
Okay.
get that posted on our website, our social media, make sure we get that out to everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. We'll proceed to employee recognition. Mark Whitlow is off today, but Dana Reed, would you step
I'm
forward,
wearing my
please?
hearing aids, so if anyone asks me a question, I was not able to hear. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
This is a really fun part that we have as commissioners, is to give new certificates to people who've accomplished something. Dana's been with us quite a long time. How long have you been with us?
15 years in August.
15 years. And you're in the military too, you're in the reserve, right?
Yes, sir, the Air National Guard.
Yeah. Well, he's been a dedicated person. He's been in inspection, and now he's heading up the GIS, is that right?
Yes, sir.
So this is a certificate. Let me read it to you. The State of Georgia Board of Examiners for Certification of Water and Wastewater Treatment Plant Operators and Laboratory Analysts testifies that Dana Michael Reed, Jr., as having given satisfactory evidence of the necessary qualifications as required by the laws of the state of Georgia, has been duly certified as a wastewater collection system operator in the state of Georgia, dated April 21st, 2022. Congratulations.
Thanks, sir.
Love to. Just want to say how proud we are of Dana, of course, and all of our staff. Licenses like the one that Dana has achieved here, you know, the most important thing we manage is public trust. So when we get an industry standard license like this, it helps to ensure the public that we're doing what we know how to do. So, thank you, Dana.
Great
Proud of you.
accomplishment. Thank you.
Thank you.
We need to amend the agenda to eliminate the third item, the Village Drive Force Main, from item 4, and also to amend to remove the capital improvement fee connection assistance policy, item 5. Can I have a motion to amend the agenda, please?
Yes, sir. Chairman, I'll make the motion for item 4. We eliminate the discussion for Village Drive Force Main, as that agreement requires additional work. And also for item 5, we defer that item until another meeting time appropriate, as we need to work on that agreement also.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion carries 6-0. We also need to vote to, Commissioner Stevens is unable to be here. He had some other duties at the hospital that he needed to take care of. So can I have a motion to excuse him from this meeting?
Make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you very much. First item on the approval section is minutes from the March 17, 2022 regular meeting. Okay. Let's go ahead and do the approvals, and then we'll come back to that.
I'll move to accept the minutes of March 17th regular meeting as submitted.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor? Motion carries. I skipped the committee updates. Let me go back and backtrack on that. Facilities Committee, we had a good meeting yesterday, and all the plants are operating within the permit. We've had a lot of rainfall during the month of April, so the Academy plant was up at 54% of its capacity. Dunbar was at 93% of its capacity, and Southport was at 26% of its capacity. We also had a very good presentation on the various construction projects that are underway. And right now we have $33 million worth of construction underway. So that's pretty good for system of our size to be spending that much money. I want to commend the staff for all the hard work they're doing to improve our facilities. And they're just doing an excellent job. They're keeping everything on track. And they're going to be presenting some things today so far as recommendations and future projects for the review of the full commission. Those things have all been approved by the Facilities Committee at our meeting yesterday. We also had a Finance Committee meeting. Commissioner Duncan, would you please give us an update on that?
Yes, sir. Very briefly on the Finance Committee, there are two significant items of note that we reviewed and recommend approval to the full commission. That's the fiscal year 23 annual budget. And Mr. Burrows will provide more details about that, but we reviewed that yesterday and endorsed it. Likewise, the capital projects plan, that's the plan that we reviewed in our planning session earlier this year. And so that's been updated and estimated amounts provided for it. And Mr. Burrows will give us more details on that today. That was also endorsed by the Finance Committee yesterday for full consideration of the board today. Excuse me. The financial statement of the month, I'll just categorize it as on track. No surprises there. We're executing very well in terms of our finances on behalf of our ratepayers and the taxpayers of Glynn County. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Duncan. Next item is the fiscal year 2023 annual budget. Mr. Burris.
Yes, sir. Commissioners, we spoke about the draft budget at the March Finance Committee meeting. It was presented yesterday for approval based off some feedback received at that March meeting. So that was approved by Finance Committee yesterday. Our 4 goals coming into this year's budget: we want to maintain affordability for our customers despite rising costs. We've got rising costs across the board, particularly in some of our necessary chemicals and also materials for projects. Things are going up due to inflation and supply chain issues. The obvious example of that, we use liquid oxygen at the Academy Creek plant. In the past 18 months, we've had 3 increases of over 10%. We're almost at 45% increase in the unit cost of oxygen. We've been able to decrease our usage a little bit by being more efficient, but these things are rising right now. We wanted to increase our project funding and maintain the master plan. A couple of reasons for that. 1, the master plan was a little front-end loaded, and 2, all our projects are costing more because of the shortage of contractors at this point. We want to improve our equipment reliability. We have a lot of equipment, and as it starts to become dated, it becomes less reliable, and we end up with a whole lot more maintenance we have to do on that. We're trying to make sure we keep our equipment running so that we can maintain our systems. And then we always look to streamline operational processes where we can. So some general highlights on our budget this year. We are requesting a small water-only rate adjustment, no adjustment to sewer or the administrative fees or the debt service charges, but just a water-only rate adjustment. We will be increasing the repair and replacement reserve funding, and that is where we do capital projects from. We are increasing our capital cost to improve that equipment reliability. The capital cost in what we're considering here are items more than $5,000 that are approved in the budget, vehicles and equipment that we use to do our jobs. And then we are budgeting a overtime reduction based off of some efficiencies we've gained in multiple divisions, large decreases in systems pumping with the installation of the new SCADA system, and through some scheduling improvements, we've seen reductions in admin services and at water production. So our budgeted revenues for the year, that may be a little small on the screen there, but sewer revenues account for just over 41% of our revenues, water revenues around 21%, and then debt and admin charges make up about 30% combined. A very small percentage comes from what we deem other income, which is essentially everything else that's not included in the general bill. Those are not items that are billed as part of a monthly bill. They're just other revenue that we get throughout the year. So our revenue highlights: the overall budget amount has increased by $1.1 million, and that's from an increased customer count that has helped increase those revenue projections. We've added over 600 accounts since the previous budget year, and each one of those is paying a monthly bill and is increasing revenue. We are requesting a water revenue increase that will require that rate adjustment, but we're doing it simply on high usage customers only. We'll get into that in just a second. And then we rent space on our water towers to cell carriers, and the rental revenue coming off of those cell carriers has increased by $10,000 or $20,000. So starting to get more revenues from those. We have a third party that coordinates all that, and they continue to look for ways to increase those revenues. So our water rate adjustment. We talked about just doing it on high volume users, and that's if your usage exceeds 6,000 gallons per month. Our average residential water customer uses 4,200 gallons per month. So this is going to impact high volume users, commercial customers, industrial customers, and people that irrigate will be seeing a higher bill on their water only portion of that. So here's the proposed adjustment. The highlighted ones are the only ones that change. So that block between 6,000 and 20,000 gallons of water usage would increase 56 cents per 1,000 gallons. And 20,000 gallons and above of usage, which would be a heavy irrigator or a commercial account, would increase 67 cents per 1,000. So that's your combined bill impacts at the bottom as some example customers of what you would be getting. Combined bill would be water and sewer. We do have some water-only customers and sewer-only customers, so a combined bill, which is the overwhelming majority of our customers, is what we're looking at here. A standard low-use residential, maybe just a retired couple, uses about 2,000 gallons of water a month. They will see no change in their bill. A mid-use residential or average residential customer, I said, was about 4,200 gallons, so using 5,000 gallons as a mid-use residential would see no change in their bill. A large residential user, typically this would be somebody that irrigates, would have 15,000 gallons of usage. They would see an increase of $5.04 a month. A small chain restaurant would see a $21 increase in their bill. That's for 40,000 gallons of usage. A chain sit-down restaurant that uses about 100,000 gallons of water a month would see a $61 increase, and then a multi-family master metered apartment complex would see across the entire complex a $214 increase in their bill. So our total budget increase is 3.3%, but the actual rate increase is 2.1%. Because of that growth that we're seeing, we don't have to increase the rates to offset the full amount. A reminder, for the last 3 fiscal years, we're going into fiscal year 23, so the last 3 fiscal years, we did not adjust rates at all. So for the 4-year period, if we had done this a little along the way, it would be 0.5% annually was what the rate would have been. And so how does that compare to our cost increases? This is the cumulative changes in the consumer price index over the last 4 years. And you see that green line on top is what the actual CPI change is, and the, I'll call it teal or blue line on the bottom is what we've raised rates. And you see those last 3 years we haven't raised rates. And this year we're requesting the 2.1% rate increase, but cumulatively over 4 years the CPI has changed 12.5%. We've been able to gain efficiencies in what we're doing and be smarter about how we're spending money, but at this point we do need to request a rate adjustment. So our expenses, we break it down by our different expense types. Personnel accounts for about 1/3 of our expenses. Operating expenses account for just over 1/3. That big green piece says reserve transfers. That is project money. We're not just storing money away in accounts. That's for doing projects. That's 23%. And then debt service accounts for 6% of our budget. And as we talked about yesterday, that is an extremely low debt service percentage for a utility. There are multiple utilities running 30 to 40% or even higher debt service rates on their budgets each year. So our expense highlight, our total requested staff count is 154. Last year we budgeted for 156. We've been able to combine some duties and eliminate 2 positions. We all know that salary costs are going up for everyone right now, so our proposed hourly cost of living raise for our employees is 6.88%. For those employees that are on salary, they would be getting half that at 3.44% in this budget. Despite those raises, some of the changes we've made to our insurance and our pension and some other personnel policies we've changed with uniforms and the way we're doing overtime with our scheduling, we've actually seen, despite the raises, an overall personnel cost decrease of just shy of $200,000. So on the COLA, that's based on those CPI numbers I showed you before. Our average raise for an hourly employee would be $1.52 per hour, and for a salaried employee would be $3,160 a year. And again, those are funded from savings in overtime, insurance, pension, and the reduction in the 2 staff members. By division, you see we have several divisions, and it kind of spreads the pie out a little bit, but the 2 largest users we have are wastewater treatment and systems pumping. That makes sense because sewer is a large portion of our bill, so those 2 make up nearly 50% of our budget. Finance makes up 14% of our budget, and just as a reminder, when we went to self-funded insurance, all of the group insurance costs for everybody got included into the finance budget. So that's almost $1.8 million in that budget, which is why that takes up such a large percentage of our overall budget. Our other 2 field divisions, water distribution, water production, and a portion of the admin services division that works in the field make up about another 20%. So the purely administrative functions make up a very small percentage of our budget. So what's causing these increases? I talked about chemicals. Oxygen has went up, chlorine has went up, other chemicals we use in water and sewer have went up, and it's across the board. Our increases have not been as steep as what other utilities have seen. Some utilities bid out water treatment chemicals and got bids back that were 150% of the previous year. Property and casualty insurance, we talked about that at the last meeting. That went up due to market conditions and the risk profile for our area. We did vote and approve that increase in last month's meeting. However, we are including it in the budget. And postage for billing previously was included in bill printing costs. So if you look at the line items, it looks like our postage went up substantially. That's just being split out to more accurately capture that cost where it needs to be captured. At the wastewater plant, we had a lot of line items in the 4 wastewater plant budgets for individual pieces of equipment. We've taken all of those and combined them into one line item called equipment, parts, and supplies. Very difficult to estimate exactly what you're going to spend on an aeration basin or a clarifier or a digester versus just having an allotment for all of those at one time. Purchase electrical services. We lost a licensed electrician on our staff, so a lot of our electrical work we're having to send to a third party right now. So until we can find that person right now, we're having to farm that work out, so we increased the budget for that. And then, of course, we talked about repair and replacement reserve. That's the project funding, and our project costs continue to increase seemingly every day. The numbers we're getting back are changing. So on the good side, some decreases we've seen corresponding to the postage being moved out of bill printing. You see a decreased budget for bill printing and mailing because those postage costs have been reallocated. Dunbar Creek electricity on the island, we're using 1 aeration basin instead of 2, and we're having fantastic treatment results. By doing that, we run less blowers. Those are large motors and they consume a lot of power. So you're seeing a reduction there. And when the ongoing project we've got there, we expect that to even be furthered with some new aeration equipment. And then again, we talked about major overtime reductions from systems pumping and maintenance, which handles the wastewater collection system, admin services, and water production. Those add up to over $80,000 in overtime savings. So just kind of want to look at where we've been for the past 5 years. This excludes those capital purchases for vehicles. So this is just the operating expenses, the debt service expenses, and those project transfers. You can see our expenses for operating have been mostly flat for the past 5 years. There's been a decrease in what we're spending on debt service as we've paid off some of the outstanding debt that was transferred over. And then our project funding has went from $4 million in 2019 to nearly $7.5 million this year. And that allows us to have a better bang for our buck with our money by going out and fixing these pipes instead of constantly having to Band-Aid them. A couple of items of note for our capital replacement program. Combination cleaners are the large vacuum trucks you see with our logos on them running around town. We have 4 of those, and those were purchased on a lease-to-own program. It's a 5-year program. The request is to redo that lease-to-own program and trade those existing combination cleaners in. By doing that, the program will only increase cost by $11,000 just because the equipment's costing more, but because they're in decent shape, we're getting a good return on the trade-in value, and it would be a lease-to-own for a 5-year period. We're spending currently, after the 5 years, about $20,000 per truck replacing or rehabbing those as we go along, so we'd expect that to increase. So for only an $11,000 increase in the program, that seems like a good move for us. Capital request, again, enterprise data center, those are the servers that maintain all of our software programs. They're reaching the end of their life, and I believe the term is they're being obsoleted or whatever, Jay. Sorry, I don't do the IT stuff. forced obsolescence, that's the word. So they're reaching the end of the life, and we're having some reliability issues there. Particularly challenging when we have our SCADA servers go down and or the financial servers and can't take payments in the lobby because we can't access the accounts. We're looking to purchase a manhole scanner, which is a device we would lower down in manholes and would provide a profile of the existing manhole so we can determine exactly what needs to be rehabbed. So that gives us an improved accuracy for the inspections, but it also eliminates us having to put somebody in a manhole to actually inspect it. And anytime we can eliminate a confined spaced entry, that is good for our staff and for our liabilities. And then a sonar sewer main inspector. This allows us to put a sonar emitter in one manhole and a receiver in another manhole and get a calculation of how much of that sonar wave gets across to tell you what percentage blocked the line is. We can inspect more lines this way up to 15,000 feet a day compared to 3,000 feet a day now. And that allows us to be more targeted with what we're cleaning and televising to where we're actually having problems instead of spending time inspecting pipe that doesn't have any issues. Refrigerated samplers, we are currently having to manually sample at the wastewater plants every hour in order to do what's called flow-paced sampling. So as the flows increase and decrease throughout the day, they want a percentage based off of what it is at the time. That's a very tedious and time-consuming process, and so we're requesting samplers that will do this automatically for us. A telehandler so that we can pull our raw sewage pumps and mixers from our aeration basins and digesters without having to rent a crane. Currently, the only way we can pull those is to rent a crane, and we pay a 4-hour minimum for them to be there for about 15 minutes. It takes them longer to drive to our plant than it does to actually work on site. And then fleet replacements, we are requesting to replace 10 vehicles this year. That is, of course, assuming that vehicles are available for purchase. And with that, I will open it up for any questions you might have.
I think it's a good budget. And can I have a motion?
I'll offer the motion coming from the Finance Committee. I move the Brunswick-Glynn Joint Water and Sewer Commission take the following actions. 1, approve the submission of the proposed fiscal year 2023 JWSC budget to the City of Brunswick and Glynn County for review and comment. And 2, approve the fiscal year 2023, excuse me, I'm making my note, JWSC budget in the amount of $34,400,000 subject to revisions resulting from the comments received from the city and/or Glynn County.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Motion second. Any questions or comments?
I will say for those commissioners that haven't been through our budgeting process before, we're required by the operating agreement to send the budget to the city and the county for review. To date, we have never received comments, but we do submit it to the city and the county every year for review. So that's why that step is in there with that portion of the motion.
I'll offer a few comments. One is this is a modest increase in the budget. It's 3.3% compared to last fiscal year. That's really very small compared to the impact of inflation that we've been experiencing. Why is that 3% versus the CPI is pushing us at 8% right now? That's because the efforts of Andrew and his team has been beginning to squeeze more out of the turnip, if you will, to make the system more efficient, improve the processes, and maintain the equipment that we have. The example on these 4 vac trucks, if you will, is depending on kind of equipment, what I've seen in years past working in the utility business 40 years, some equipment you'd keep 12 years. However, this equipment, we really need to swap it out about every 4 to 5 years, simply because the duty cycle they receive, they just about don't sit idle long enough to cool off because they are on the job so much and being used to clean our system, which helps to maintain the service of the system for the benefit of our customers year round. So that's just one example of what's being done and the kind of efficiencies we've experienced. Asking only for barely a 2% increase in the rates and only on the water side is again indicative of the efficiencies that are being generated every month going forward. So with that, thank you, Andrew. Thank you, team, for making this happen. And in my view, this is a great decision to make to sustain an outstanding organization and fund them this next fiscal year.
Any other comments?
I have a couple of comments. I think that when you look at a budget document like this, it really is a barometer of your organization. And it really shows that we are very much moving forward. As you'll see the projects coming up next, we have $15 million worth of projects here. The staff, the director, and the assistant director, I call them finally D1 and D2, are implementing a large amount of technology. It's making our work, their work, and the work of the organization much more efficient, much easier, and they never hesitate to find things that are going to make everyone's work a little bit easier. And I think that this is a very good document we've seen here. I think we're moving forward very nicely, and it's not without challenges because personnel are an issue, not for this organization only, but across the board for everyone. And it's something we are going to need to spend some time working on, getting people in here and keeping people on the jobs, some of the tough jobs that they have to do here. And I acknowledged yesterday how much respect I have for the work that not only the people in this building do, but especially the people that work out in the field. And so I'm feeling very positive about this document and about the future of this organization.
Any other comments? I want to add the cost of living adjustment that we have. I'm glad that we addressed that, and I think the recommendation is very good because the hourly employees, they are really having a tough time in this kind of economy, and so we're really helping them out. And I'm glad to see we can do that with only having a very modest rate increase. So if there's no other comments, all in favor of the motion? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the fiscal 2023 capital projects plan. Mr. Burrows.
All right, now we intentionally approved the budget first because without the budget, there would not be a capital projects plan. So just as a note here, we kind of split out water and sewer in Mainland and St. Simons to kind of show you what we're looking at. Some of the projects don't fit neatly into one of those, so they just kind of get 50-50 because they serve both water and sewer. So we're spending about $2.5 million on water projects on the mainland, just shy of $6 million of sewer projects on the mainland, so around $8,365,000 on the mainland total. St. Simons, $3 million on the water, $4 million on the sewer for just over $7 million total for a $15.5 million capital projects plan. I will remind that this $15.5 million does not include the Series 2021 bond projects that will be in addition to these projects. So I'm looking at Todd. We got a lot of work to do. So here's our project list. The first one's not actually a project, but when we issued loans for the Academy Creek project and the meter project, we told everyone we would not be raising rates to accommodate that. So we pulled that out of our annual project budget, the debt service for those payments at $1.2 million. The second project, Academy Creek RAS replacement. RAS is returned or recycled activated sludge. You take sludge from the bottom of clarifiers and send it back through the plant to essentially give the bacteria multiple times to actually remove the solids. And so we need to increase our flow rates on those and also put in chopper style pumps. We have failed screening there for years, and so there's a lot of rags in those systems, and they settle out and they bind pumps up. So instead of consistently having to pull pumps and unclog them, putting in chopper style pumps will significantly reduce the workload and allow us to pump more flow consistently. Water production SCADA, I talked about on the overtime reductions that we got out of the systems pumping SCADA that we did. The water production SCADA needs to be changed out. We are currently using what's called data flow systems, which has served us very well. However, it is a proprietary system and it's very difficult to get parts for. And we currently, in the past 2 months, have had to drive down halfway to Miami to pick up parts overnight because of a failure in that system. So getting that taken care of will, one, let our water operators sleep a little bit more at night, but two, also give us more options for purchases if we need to replace things. Pump station 4105 is on Kate Road. There are two pump stations, 4107 pumps to 4105. The current force main from 4105 turns at the railroad tracks at Haltala and goes underneath the interstate and dumps on a manhole near Old Jessup. This would be to significantly reduce the length of that force main in order to increase the flow rate by reducing the head on the pumps. So this would be to go underneath the railroad, and actually dump out on 341, and that will go to the same downstream pump station, so no downstream impacts, but will improve capacity in the entire corridor. EST is elevated storage tanks, so the Mall and Oglethorpe tanks need rehabbing, and that is to blast them down to bare metal and repaint them. The Mall tank is at the Mall here in Brunswick, and the Oglethorpe tank is next to Marsh's Edge on the north end of St. Simons. Pump station 2056, and then the next project 33 and 34 are all pump stations on the north end of the island along Lawrence Road. 2056 is the one, it's right across from German Village. 2033 is the one right there by the fire station. 2034 is Pikes Bluff, is that right? So back in those areas, these are dated stations. They're just on the master plan list for rehab. And so this will be to rehab those stations. Pump station 3114, force main reroute. 3114 is the pump station that pumps from the Buck Swamp area off of, actually the station is on Southport Parkway, but all that flow from Buck Swamp, Clearwater, Satilla Sands comes through that station. Currently, that is in a combined force main with the station that comes from the port, and we're running into some capacity issues on both sides. By splitting those force mains, we get better capacity out of each of those. We own property that we could run the pipe down. It'd be a straightforward project. It just needs to be done to improve capacity at the exit 29 area. North Mainland WPCF is Water Pollution Control Facility. This would be land acquisition and beginning engineering to purchase and design a plant for the North Mainland, sewer plant at the North Mainland area to handle our capacity needs along Highway 99. Ocean Boulevard water main improvements, that is to replace an existing cast iron water main that runs from East Beach to the village. We did Village Phase 1 with the county 4 years ago. Well, this would be to connect those improvements all the way to East Beach. That will improve fire flows and pressures in the area and also reduce our water loss through some leaking pipes. Wesley Oak Circle is a neighborhood on St. Simons that has a lot of galvanized piping. It's an existing 2-inch galvanized line. There's not sufficient fire protection in the neighborhood, so this would be to replace that galvanized line with 6- and 8-inch pipes to improve fire protection. As Mr. Smith commented on, Brunswick Villa area sewer extensions. This is the area to the east of the railroad tracks, east of Arco, along Townsend Street on both sides of the road. They have access to water, but they don't have access to sewer. This would be to provide gravity sewer access to those customers. Galvanized Replacements, this is an annual program where we in-house replace about between 2 to 3 miles of galvanized pipe. This will be the third allotment of that project. When we find galvanized water mains, we replace them with new poly piping, and it improves pressures and reduces our water loss. And then the last one, we're combining a bunch of needed facilities improvements together. This is painting, HVAC replacements, and some improvements to flooring and security at our warehouses, just because we've kind of postponed that for several years and need to get on it. So that would be our project plan for next year. As I mentioned yesterday, these are estimates based off of information from today. As we know, things are changing every single day. Every one of these contracts will be brought back to you for approval once they're bid out.
We've heard the capital improvements projects plan is presented. Can I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Brunswick-Glynn Joint Water and Sewer Commission endorse the fiscal year 2023 capital projects plan as presented.
Your second?
Second it.
Does anyone have any questions? I think it's a good plan, and so we'll have some more projects coming up this next year, so everybody will stay busy. That's really good.
Take a vote on that.
Any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, Andrew.
Now I'm going to let Mr. Klein talk for a minute.
The next item is infrastructure and easement dedications. All of these dedications were approved by the Facilities Committee yesterday, so Todd, if you can just briefly give us an update on these.
Absolutely. Chairman, thank you. Commissioners, good afternoon. Yes, this is dedication of infrastructure and at least one easement in the Tanglewood project. And it's a good day when we get to do these, because not only does it mean one of our private projects is complete and we can move on to the next, it expands our system, and that's what we're in the business of doing, is getting customers. So in Autumnswood Phase 2, there's a section of that completed in that subdivision, and there's also tied together You can see a GIS shot, location map on the attached exhibits. Here we go. Item number 2, Autumnswood Phase 2. And then you can see the GIS where the highlighted areas, the component we're talking about today, water and sewer systems is part of that project. And at the completion of construction of this private infrastructure, oftentimes the developer dedicates this to us for ownership and maintenance. And the second one that we're looking at today is Tanglewood Phase 2A. Same general location off of State Route 99. Again, that's water and sewer infrastructure and one small easement associated with that. And the exhibits are attached at the end, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move that we vote on these separately so that I'll have the opportunity to abstain on Autumnswood Phase 2.
Okay.
I'll make the motion for us, and we'll keep it simple. I'll move that the Brunswick-Glynn Joint Water Sewer Commission approve item 1, Autumnwoods Phase 2, for its dedication and/or easements.
So I'll second that motion.
Motion second, all in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
And then I'll make
And one abstain.
I'll make the motion for the item 2. I'll move the Brunswick-Glynn Joint Water and Sewer Commission approve the project for Tanglewood Phase 2A for dedication and/or easements.
I'll second that motion.
Motion second, all in favor? Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Next item is a leak adjustment request. Mr. Burrs, these were approved by the Finance Committee yesterday, the McDonald's and also the Travel Center of America. Can you briefly mention those to us, Andrew?
Yes, sir. According to both the City of Brunswick and Glynn County ordinances, any leak adjustment over $2,000 must be brought to the commission for approval. The McDonald's on Alabama Avenue noticed a high water bill, had multiple leaks when their plumber checked, and they have a calculated leak adjustment amount of $2,463.87. McDonald's has paid their bill in full, so this will be issued as a credit towards their account.
Can I have a motion for that?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Brunswick-Glynn Joint Water and Sewer Commission approve the leak adjustment in the amount of $2,463.87 to the account of McDonald's as presented.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? Motion carries 6-0.
And down on the Travel Centers of America at exit 29 on Dungeness Drive, they had a sizable leak on their irrigation system. They don't have a separate irrigation meter, so they were also billed sewer for these accounts. So they ran up 43 times their normal bill in 1 month. So they got that corrected, but now the calculated leak adjustment is $3,389.08. They likewise have paid in full and will be receiving a credit on their account.
Can I have a motion?
I'll move that the Brunswick-Glynn Joint Water and Sewer Commission approve the leak adjustment in the amount of $3,389.08 to the account of Travel Center of America as presented.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor? Motion carries 6-0. The next item is equipment purchase, Kubota 30-inch coal planer. This was approved by the Finance Committee yesterday. Andrew, can you give us just a brief summary about this?
Yes, sir. So what we currently do when we have to cut out large sections of asphalt to replace piping or repair piping is we saw cut and load it into the back of a dump truck and haul it to a landfill. We don't get enough quantities to really store that and grind it for future use. If we have a large project, then we have to hire somebody to come in and mill the road first. What this will allow us to do is to have an attachment for our existing equipment where we can do small milling projects in-house without having to hire that out. Our average what we consider a large project that we do in-house costs us between $3,000 and $5,000 to get it milled. And we're also having extreme delays in getting those accomplished right now due to contractor shortages. So we went out for quotes to see if we can get one of these attachments, and it came in just shy of $25,000. This will allow us to mill the asphalt, take that ground asphalt, store it on site while we're doing the job, and then put that back to patch the road temporarily until the final paving can be accomplished. It makes it quicker. We also don't have to load it up and pay those hauling and disposal fees on site. And all in all, we expect this to pay for itself within 3 to 5 in-house projects. And we do approximately 3 in-house projects a year. So you're looking at a 1 to 2 year payback on the piece of equipment.
Can I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Brunswick-Glynn Joint Water and Sewer Commission approve the purchase of a Kubota 30-inch coal planer from Sapelo Equipment Company, LLC, in the amount of $24,999.
Second that motion.
Motion second, all in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Next item is Community Road Sewer Project Engineering Proposal. Mr. Klein,
Okay. Exhibit pull up here. Okay, there's a lot of exhibits, Commissioners, on this one, but I will summarize as best as possible. So Capital Project 2020 is a community road water and sewer extension project. It's a segment of the community, largely commercial, mostly commercial, that we wish to, there's been a lot of request and demand in the area. So we are extending primarily sewer, but a little bit of water as well. And originally, the design effort was pushed towards a gravity collection system. And recently, with some feedback and then direction from leadership, we're taking a hard look at going to a what's called a low pressure, referred to as a low pressure grinder system. The installation's a little bit easier, or a lot easier, requires less easements, construction be a little bit faster, and it is certainly a viable option for this area, this commercial area. So we went back to our engineer of record and asked him to provide a proposal to revise the design to this low pressure grinder system format, and that's what they've done. And they've come back with their proposal, would add $76,650 in money to the contract, and then also an additional 283 days to reformat the plans, a little more surveying, and get us through to advertising. So happy to answer any questions on this.
I will note that switching to low pressure could save us, depending on what things come in, up to $1 million on the construction of the project.
can I have a motion?
I'll move that the Brunswick-Glynn Joint Water and Sewer Commission approve the above described change order number 1 to increase the contract amount by $76,650 and contract time by 283 consecutive calendar days.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? Andrew mentioned we've not put in a complete pressure system to serve anybody as of yet.
We have not, as joint water and sewer. There are 3 full neighborhood pressure systems on St. Simon's right now, but this is the first one that we've installed. But in this area, you're kind of bound by the railroad and the existing topography where it doesn't make sense to further extend gravity sewer, so this is a good way to serve these areas. Cost-effective way, and also since it's a commercial area, they will be mostly low-flow water, so these grinder systems will be effective, and we won't have to do as much maintenance on the gravity system from lines with solid settling out in them.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Executive Director's update.
Yes, sir. As reported at our Finance Committee yesterday, the Low-Income Housing Water Assistance Program is continuing to be a tremendous success for our area. The program since January has assisted over 225 of our customers and have provided over $108,000 in payments towards past due accounts and future credits. So that program has been a tremendous relief to some of our more stressed customers each month, and that has seen great success. On the meter installation project, I was hoping that we'd be over 10,000 meters when I talked to you today, but apparently they didn't update last night, so we're still at 9,957 meters installed. But out of 31,000, we've installed almost 10,000 meters in the past 3.5 months. So that crew is making massive progress. Our SPLOST projects that are still hanging out there, we finished the 4003 project several months back. We did complete the 40, 35, and 36 rehab project this week. We got notice of final completion on that. And the only thing we have remaining on the SPLOST projects are the 2 long horizontal directional drills on Canal and Harry Driggers right there at Glencoe Parkway. So the large 100-ton rig to make those pulls will be coming in next week. And then we'll be moving down to install the force main section down Ogden. Contractor says they'll be through end of May, early June on that project, and then all of our 2016 SPOS projects will be completed. And that is all I have today.
Any commissioners have any comments? Once again, I'd just like to commend our entire staff for keeping this operation going in such a smooth way. Every one of y'all, the ones sitting out here and the ones that we don't see, that are supporting them. We have an excellent staff, and we're moving forward, and we want to just keep the gas pedal going. The one thing that we want to talk about is also the future so far as how are we going to address extending sewers out in the community. We had a public comment here, and if we want to get SPLOST passed this year, it appears that we need to really have some infrastructure projects on this SPLOST list that are extending sewers to unsewered areas and improving the water system, replacing more galvanized lines. And I think when we're doing that, somehow we need to get to the community what we're doing so far as this community assistance program, because that's a huge benefit to a lot of our customers. And if we start advertising that more, maybe we have more, maybe some of our more affluent users might start donating through their water bills to help that. And they just don't realize that it's available if we start advertising it. And I just really like the fact that the staff reached out to get these state funds adding to that. And that's just a great thing for our community. That's my update. And do we have to have an executive session? Okay. Nothing else. Meeting's adjourned.